Alright, welcome to this relatively short review of Guacamelee. It's a Metroidvania-style action 2D platformer developed by Drinkbox Studios, a relatively small indie studio that primarily develops side-scrolling games as well as a few top-down games, I believe. They actually seem to self-publish them for the most part, which is kinda neat, whenever possible I suppose. Seems to be what they prefer, if nothing else. But either way, this is Guacamelee Super Turbo Championship Edition, which seems to be a somewhat excessively long name, but there you go, it's terribly wonderful. I'm also playing and recording this on a laptop, so let's see how well that goes, I suppose. There is a second Guacamelee as well, but this is needless to say the first one. Released in 2013, if I'm not mistaken. Alright, let's have a very quick look at the option menu, because I'm primarily a PC player, so I usually want to see how that one looks, just in case. Now, this is a 2D game with relatively simple graphics, so it's probably gonna run fine on most computer setups. Unless it's very slow and old. That said, I do have an old PC that can barely run Firefox, so, you know, I'm not so sure of the health of that computer, honestly, but anyway. Well, I see here, music and sound volume is separate. There's no voice or dialogue volume because that doesn't exist in the game, it's only text. There's a few different options, some language options actually, quite a few here, which is kind of nice, perhaps a little bit surprising for a small indie studio, but anyway. Yeah, rumble for controls, if you don't like that you can turn it off. Resolution, full screen, VSync, so on and so forth. Basically, you have the kind of fundamentals here. Probably what you would need for such a graphically simple game anyways. But yeah, when it comes to the controls, the controller itself is not rewindable, unfortunately. But the keyboard is completely remappable, so that's always nice, at least. The controller not being rewindable isn't necessarily super surprising. It's a little bit more work to kind of make a rewindable layout for a controller than it is for a keyboard, honestly. But yeah, anyways, other than that, we have some extras, which is nice, I suppose. These are just cutscenes, if I'm not mistaken. Achievements, if you are into that kind of stuff. Leaderboards, which I personally don't tend to care about because it's always really weird and usually just tend to be cheating in those things anyway, so I don't really care much for them, but yeah. Without much further ado though, let's jump into the game and I'll show you a little bit what's going on. So let's do that. So I'm a decent bit into the game at this point. I have played relatively far in, I believe, relative to the length of the game at least. Albeit that being said, it's not a very long game either, so it's probably a number of hours, I suppose. But yeah, it's not exceptionally long if you're looking for something exhaustive and time-consuming. Well, this is not it, but yes. Let's go. Alright, so here we go. Welcome to Guacamelee. I'm gonna show you a little bit what's going on. There's a bunch of different abilities you have in this game, by the way. It is, as I said, a Metroidvania style game, which means it's gonna have abilities and paths that you can only go into after you unlocked said abilities. That's how Metroidvania works. Such as these colored blocks, for example. You need a specific ability to break through them, essentially. But yeah, you know, you have to find the attack first and then you can break through. And obviously you unlock these things by just progressing throughout the game, so there we go. Let's just break through and see what we find. Whoop, that's the wrong button. The special attacks are by basically just comboing your movement direction with your special attack button. So if you're moving right or left while pressing the button, or holding up or holding down, or not holding a direction for that matter, that will do a special attack. There we go, and it seems we got a piece of heart there. There we go. Similar to Zelda, when you get, well, sufficient number of pieces, you'll get an entire health, so that's good. Alright, that went well. So this game is relatively unique when it comes to the graphic style, as you see here. Has this very colorful, cartoony kind of paper cutout style, I suppose, or whatever you wanna call it. It's probably one of the more distinguishing aspects of the game, honestly. That and the kind of wrestling focus and aesthetic. I'm getting murdered here. What the hell? Die, thanks. Cool, neat. Alright, where were I? Just gonna kill this guy first. Yeah, okay, cool. I don't know where I'm supposed to go right now. There's a blue block there, so that probably means there's something hidden, so I can go check that out, yes. Actually, I think I saw something up here, if I'm not mistaken. So if I can just remember the button combination, there we go. There we are. Seems to be something up here. Let's see what's going on. Have I been up here? I have not. Yes, I have. Here I have been. But I've not been there. Okay. There we go. Money! I have a few things I can gather here because I have gotten a lot of... I just ran into that. I got a bunch of abilities, so the things that I previously could not get. I have to stop running into things right now. Pay attention. I'm just getting hurt all over the place. Doesn't really matter, when you get to these shrines you get full health again, so it's fine. But yeah, I have a bunch of abilities that I didn't have previously, so I'm now able to get a bunch of things that I couldn't get previously due to the fact that they were blocked by these blocks, which you only can destroy with specific abilities. And these platforms you can only jump on when you have dimension control as well, so that's also an ability you unlock. Alright, let's see what's going on here then. Bollocks! How do I do this? So the game is kind of a equal mix of platformer and ow. I should actually be able to run up there. Ow. What am I doing? Why would you go... Why would you grab... Damn it, this is terrible. I'm not doing well right now. No. Stop grabbing onto the thing, just go through it. What are you doing? God, this is terrible. You know what? I'm just going to skip forward until I actually solve this because it's not going well. Good God. Entertaining at all. For anyone, me included. Oh. Aha. There we go. Hit the thing. Well, it could have been worse, I guess. No, why would you do that? There we go. Done! Wonderful. Okay. So yeah, this game, back to topic. After being so wonderfully interrupted and distracted there. Where am I going, by the way? I think I'm just going to go to the next mission, I guess. But yeah, this is basically just an area, and the items here were gated things that I couldn't access previously because I didn't have the appropriate skill or kind of special ability, essentially. So that's the kind of Metroidvania style kind of progression gating and stuff that you find in this game. Anyways, let's fast travel here to wherever I'm supposed to go here. I can't travel directly to that one, so just go to the closest one, I suppose. Alright, so there is about equal amounts of combat as there is platforming in this game, as I mentioned before. And they're all kind of themed around all these different combat moves that you have, essentially. Well, this is a new area, I haven't been here before. Anyways, Yes, I would say like there's three things this game does kind of uniquely. One is the theme of being very much wrestling oriented, or this kind of Mexican wrestling orientation it has for its theme. The second is the art style, I suppose. And the third one is how basically everything in the game is very much themed towards and makes use of these kind of combat moves you have here. So as you see, you kind of move in a direction when you use them, which means that you also use them a lot when you're doing the platforming and the puzzles. So everything makes use of these kind of moves you have. There is 4 of them in total. There is one where you just stand still. There is one when you move forward or backward. Well, you can't move backward actually. Moving forward is the only one that really exists there. Moving backward, we just change your direction of movement, meaning you changed the direction you make the attack in, but you're not gonna make a different attack. Hit. And then we have this throw. That's not really a special attack though. Oh, okay. Goodbye, I guess. What the heck? Where did you go? What? Oh, hi. What? Why were you gone for so long? That's weird. Haven't actually fought these enemies before, but they're weird, that's for sure. Teleporting bastards. But yeah. So yeah, there's 4 different abilities. There's one uppercut. There is that kind of forward strike. There is a slam ability. And then there is the just stand still and you do a headbutt. So as mentioned, the movement direction will indeed determine which move you do. So yeah. I think I have to use my moves here. So let's see here. Up and boom. There we go. Yeah, so as you see that I used my kind of combat abilities, and since they do add some kind of move direction to where I am when I use them, that's probably the least convenient way I could possibly explain that, but anyway. So yeah, you use them when you platform as well as when you're fighting. Alright. But yeah, the majority of the attacks that you have actually do move you when you are using them, which means that you can use them for both platforming as well as just combat. But yeah, so basically all gameplay in the game essentially is bound into these combat moves that you have here. So it's integrated into the combat, into the platforming, as well as your ability to break those different colored blocks as well, of course, where they have hidden different resources and stuff that you can only access after you've unlocked said abilities as well. The combat is relatively enjoyable, honestly. It has a decent amount of variety due to the fact that we have a pretty wide range of different moves. It is not an excessively complicated combat system. It's not that difficult or complex. It's not like the button combinations you find in a fighting game or anything like that. It is very much these 4 abilities that you... Whoop, there we go, Pinata. Loot. It is very much these 4 abilities that you chain together, and the whole game just focuses around using those, basically. As well as the normal attacks as well, of course, which you can kind of do similar things with as well, so you can punch people upwards with a normal attack as well. It just isn't quite as powerful, that's how you said. But yeah, it's not especially difficult though, I would say. It's not a excessively difficult game, or especially difficult game all around. The bosses provide some additional challenge. And then honestly, the platforming in this game is sometimes more difficult than this combat, quite honestly. Which is interesting. But again, it's pretty much half-half. It's half platforming, half combat, so I guess that kind of makes sense. As you see here, there is a very significant amount of telegraphing going on here. It's very clearly telegraphing when they're gonna punch the ground or whatever, so you're gonna have a lot of time to get out of the way. This is going quite well so far. Certain enemies are more difficult to fight. These are pretty easy. Big skeletons, they just look big and stumpy and scary, but they really are not particularly difficult. They're just kind of tanky. They are very much telegraphing, as you see that. Their telegraphing is very, very slow and clear, so it's quite easy to get out of the way. Die! What? 2 more? 3 more? No! Stop it! These guys take quite a beating. Anyway, yeah, the combat is pretty simple, but it is relatively enjoyable, honestly. Ow, I got hit once. That's not good. There we go. As you see, it's not particularly difficult to take these down. They're pretty obvious in their telegraphing on what they're going to do, but anyway, they do take quite a beating. Fun. There we go. Yeah, it is pretty enjoyable combat, I think, even though it's not particularly complex or difficult. It's not completely trivial. It does have some challenge. It does pose a little bit of resistance, but it's not by any means a hardcore or complex combat system or fighting game, really. So if you're looking for your next Dark Souls or Salt and Sanctuary, then, well, this ain't it. There we go. Combos. Hup, whoop. There we go. So those are pretty obvious ways you use your different attacks to platform, obviously. How do I do these things? Okay. No. Okay, that's not how you do it. Okay. This is not cool, bro. I actually have no idea how you're supposed to get through these. You know what? I'm just gonna skip past this because this is not gonna be enjoyable to watch, and you already seen me fail on puzzles before. Blink, hop. Finally. Oh. I'm a dumbass. So you see there's a slight glittering on the barb thing there. I couldn't see that because of all the snow or whatever. That's how you get through it. So let's just do it properly then. There we go. Wow, that was annoying. Damn. Okay. Good enough. Worked well. Okay. Yeah. So I would say the most iconic part of the game is probably the different movesets you have here, and that it binds it so intricately to both the combat as well as the... Nope. So we've got here. As well as the platforming. So actually you can use that. Okay. Go away. Yeah, so you can actually use this attack to kill enemies, I guess. There you go. Given they're actually positioned in an environment where it is possible to do so, of course. Which is somewhat limiting, I guess, but anyway. It is primarily a traversal ability as opposed to a combat ability, after all. Anyways, a few other things perhaps to mention is narrative, I suppose, which it is very light on the narrative. It's not particularly complex, intricate, or profound, let's say. But it's somewhat amusing. It has a number of jokes. It is kind of comedically written, I guess. As to whether or not you actually enjoy the humor is obviously a personal preference thing, but oh hi, you're back. Hello. That's obviously going to be a personal preference thing, but it certainly is there. It is trying to be sort of funny or amusing. The music is pretty decent, I would say. The melodies can be a bit short sometimes, so they can get somewhat repetitive, I guess. On occasion. That said, it's pretty decent though. It's kind of funky and often relatively... There we go. He just fell down, okay. Cool. But yeah, they're pretty catchy and easy enough to enjoy, I think, for the most part, as background music. It isn't something I would ever listen to by itself, honestly, but it works well enough as complementary background music. Well, I don't actually know what I'm supposed to do here, so I'm just gonna skip forward to some actual combat and stuff, and perhaps a little bit of dialogue or something similar to that as well, so you can actually see a little bit of the writing in the game. So I'll see you in like 5 seconds. Actually, it's more like 1 second. Hey, this guy has a little bit of quest, I think. There you go, that gives you a little bit of a sense of the kind of miscellaneous writing, at least. There is a small amount of minor side quests or side activities, or whatever I call them, but they're very simple, and there is not a lot of them either. There's like 1 or 2 per town, I think, and there's like 3-4 towns in the game or something. You haven't found a new Skyrim, let's put it like that. And as you saw, there was no dialogue either. It was all text-based instructions. Anyways, let's kind of skip forward to like an actual main mission style of content, I guess. Instead of just screwing around here for little to no reason. Oh hi, this is actually a boss, I think. I'm just gonna let you read this if you want to, so you can get a bit of a sense of the writing. That's a shame. Alright, I'm not gonna fight that one now apparently, so there you go. What a pleasant place. Ah, here we go. So these are the shields, obviously. So this guy needs the forward punch, the blue thing. Up, boom. There we go. Ow. To dodge these skeletons. This one actually, yeah, right. So that one is the headbutt, and this last one will be the body slam. So let's do one of those. Kaboom! There we go. All right. But yeah, you got a little bit of kind of main story style of dialogue there, so you can see a little bit how it feels and the general theme and writing style you can expect to find in this game. There we go. So this is the kind of little, well, I guess it's the upgrade shrines as well as your checkpoints, basically. And here you can buy a few little different, well, upgrades, I suppose. So there's a special mode, which is Intenso, which makes you basically power up or whatever, a kind of rage mode style of ability. You can upgrade your different abilities, or some of them anyways, and then you can also upgrade things like just stamina regen or health as well. Speaking of which, by the way, the stamina basically allows you to do the special attacks. If you see the up in the corner, there is a red bar, that's obviously health. The kind of yellow dots or squares, that is the special attacks. I can do quite a few right now. And when you do them, they will consume, and then you have to wait for them to recharge. If you just wait a little bit, and there you go. They recharge pretty quickly because I have fully upgraded both the recharge delay as well as the recharge speeds on those. Under that, you have the special power bar, which is for the kind of rage mode or whatever you want to call it. And that's pretty much it when it comes to the abilities of the game, honestly. There isn't much more complexity to it than that. Again, it really isn't a complex game. It's pretty easy to get into and play for sure. It certainly isn't mechanically complex or complicated in any way. Oh, this is gonna be annoying. I'm gonna have to break the shield of these guys, so can I slam? Nope, that goes directly through it, so I'm gonna run right into the lava. Great. Oh well, let's try that one again, I guess. Oh, that is going terrible. Good God. Oh well, let's try to get through this anyways. But yeah, there isn't all that much else I have to really say about this game, I don't think. I believe I've covered most of the more important things I had to say, honestly. So other than just showing you a little bit more of the fighting and combat and content here, I think that pretty much does it when it comes to the things I had to say here. I'm being a little bit distracted by all the bastards trying to murder me, but that's okay. You're gonna go into lava and you're dead. Awesome. Done. Pinatas. Alright, yeah, everything is very much themed around this kind of Mexican wrestling aesthetic, which is nice. It is committed and adherent to its theme, I think, which is kind of cool. Try to get through here. Platforming 101. I can do it. I played Mario before. This is okay. Here we are. Boom. I guess I can talk a little bit more about the difficulty, I suppose, because it is not particularly difficult. It is pretty forgiving with the shrines or checkpoints or whatever I call it. So it is rather easy and beginner friendly all around, really. It's not particularly complex in its movesets or its mechanics either. It's especially not complex in how you use them, right? That doesn't necessarily mean it will inherently be entirely trivial though. Mario obviously is very simple in its mechanics, but can still pose a little bit of challenge, so doesn't translate directly to the difficulty of the game. Punch him down, there we go, wonderful. And there seems to be a secret over here, yes, correct. But in this case it is pretty easygoing and forgiving, to be fair. But at the same time, I don't think you necessarily always need to have an exceptionally difficult game. Sometimes it's nice with something a little bit more laid back. So that's fine, honestly. But yeah, I think that pretty much does it. Nope, not quite. I just realized I never actually showcased the Intenso mode. And I suspect some people might be interested to see that. So I'm just gonna put this little add-on here at the end and showcase that as well. But anyways, that's pretty much what this game has to offer. A colorful, relatively short and beginner-friendly action platformer with solid mechanics in both the platforming as well as the combat, and this kind of relatively unique Mexican wrestling theme. If that's what you're looking for, I don't see why not. On the other hand, if you want a really hardcore, intense and truly immersive experience, then yeah, well, this probably isn't for you, honestly. It isn't something I'd sit down with in longer play sessions or for hours at a time with, personally. But if you want something you can easily jump into and play for shorter play sessions at that casual capacity, well, I think it's a relatively charming little game. If you have a few minutes to spare, but not enough time to pick up something complex and time-consuming, I think it's pretty easy to pick up and have a decent time with. There is a Guacamelee 2 as well, of course, and that might be worth having a look at as well, in case you're interested in the kind of concept here. I might have a look at it myself sometime in the future, but at this point I really couldn't tell you. Nevertheless, if this is something that you'd be interested in, that's obviously something you would have to decide for yourself. And I really can't help you much more than with the recommendations and information I've given. So with nothing more to be said, maybe I'll see you next time. You can get silly suits as well, that's neat.